Hey guys, Ewok Pilot here, and today we're taking a look at two very unique figures. These figures are from a company called Light Customs, which if you've never heard of them before, they're a company that makes very limited batches, and we'll have more information on that later in the video, of these custom figures that are very much in the style of Lego. Sometimes they have custom molds, but they very much match what you would find in a Lego CMF. So if you're looking for CMF style figures, Light Customs probably has a good amount of what you're interested in, and they kind of just cover whatever they're interested in. It's usually not really what's going on in Star Wars. Like obviously we're getting right now The Force Unleashed, and The Force Unleashed hasn't really been a thing since 2011. But we're gonna go right into this. I'm really excited about these figures. I love Star Wars The Force Unleashed, so I'm really excited to have these figures in hand and to review them. We're gonna start out with the one I know is the most popular, which is the Lord Star Destroyer figure. Obviously, this is Starkiller from the Hoth mission of Star Wars The Force Unleashed. And I think that this figure is captured pretty well, especially on the torso and the arms. I think that they got the design down really well. The printing quality is really nice. Of course, you see we've got some metallic bits on the armor and some highlights on the ab area of it, as well as this control panel. I think they captured the tattered and worn look of this figure very, very nicely. If you turn to the back, you see we've got the braid that Starkiller has in that. I think that that was probably the best way to do it, is a print on the back. And I think once again, this does a really good job of mixing with the Lego art style while still being pretty accurate to Starkiller in the game. Now, with the legs, we're moving on to probably what's one of my first problems with the figure. We went with a printed cloth for some reason. I mean, this is just a personal preference, but I would have really preferred if they had an actual cloth waist cape down here instead of just printing around there. I don't know. I don't think it would have cost that much extra to just put a waist cape on there, and even if you just add $1 for the waist cape, I don't think people are going to mind paying an extra $1 to have what is, in my opinion, an objectively better figure. Moving on to the helmet, which is a unique mold for this. We'll get to the head later, but as you can see, no logo or anything in there. And actually, it's a really, really tight and snug fit on the head. There was a defect where some of the helmets were loose. To be honest, I don't know if mine actually is, because the helmet is just so tight around the face. It's not even being held in by the clutch power of the stud. It's just being held by the friction of how this is rubbing up against the actual head itself. So the stud might not even have a good connection, because I don't feel like a click or anything when I push it down. I just feel so much resistance, and I'm worried I'm going to scratch off the head by constantly taking the helmet on and off. So I'm probably just going to leave the helmet on forever once I get that in place. But the printing is really nice. This is something that I've noticed with several different customs of this figure that's really hard to capture, is this helmet, because of this, I don't know if you call it the mouth area, but that's usually what I refer to it as. It's just really hard to get that proportionally right. And then also just the angled design of this right. I feel like it looks pretty good from this angle and a few others, but like from the side, this just kind of looks a little bit smushed and flat. Maybe they could have had this stick out a little bit more, because if you see on the actual helmet, it is more of like an angled forward look rather than just being perfectly flat. But again, the challenges of trying to make it look accurate while also maintaining the Lego art style. One huge issue I do have with the helmet though, is you'll see on all of the renders they put out before they released the figure, the printing goes all the way back here. And you'll see on the actual helmet, it stops less than halfway over the helmet. So in my opinion, that's just false advertising. That really should not have happened. It also happened with the variant as well. The variant that they have, that is the Inquisitor version, super limited. It doesn't go all the way back here either, even though on the renders it is all the way back there. So I don't know what that's all about. Light Customs, please, in the future, do not render your figures if that's not what it's going to look like when they're done. I don't know if there was some production issue that caused that to not be able to happen, but at the end of the day, it really shouldn't have been advertised that way if it wasn't going to be sold that way. The helmet doesn't look that bad. I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of how this turned out. I think this guy looks exactly like how a Starkiller figure would look in a CMF. I hope they take this design and tweak it and make it look like the normal Sith Stalker armor that we see from the dark side ending of the game. That would be pretty cool. And as you see, this head actually matches one of the costumes in the game, where his Sith Stalker armor just doesn't have a helmet on it. I think it looks pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the idea to follow with Lego's no pupils design. I think giving this guy pupils would have looked a lot better. but it looks fine. I mean, once again, the helmet's going to be on forever for me, so I'm never really going to see this. But yeah, this figure is pretty good overall, bar the no waist cape. I'm not a fan of that. Probably going to get a waist cape for this figure myself. And then also, oh, one more thing. They just opted not to include a lightsaber. I don't know why that's a thing. Those things are a dime a dozen. You could have included that for basically no hit to your margin. So a little disappointing there to not have a lightsaber included with this figure. The helmet is a little too tight. Didn't match the render. Overall, it's accurate. It isn't accurate to have the printing go back all the way, by the way. It's just, that's not what the render said. So people who just looked at the renders before buying the figure may not have gotten what they expected when it comes to that. But overall, decent figure, but I hope Light Customs gets a bit of the quality control sorted, starts including cloth, and makes the renders match the actual figure. Moving on to the Star Destroyer. This is based on Starkiller from The Force Unleashed 2, but actually not an appearance he ever has throughout the campaign. He only has it in the marketing, and it's one of the costumes you unlock after completing the game. But this is definitely his most iconic look because it was all over the Force Unleashed 2 marketing. And I really, really like this look. I'm glad that someone tackled it, and I'm glad that it really matches the CMF style, so that it looks like something LEGO would have made. Now, you'll see right off the bat, starting with the legs, I was just showing y'all, it looks like it's dual molded, right? But as you can see on the inside of the legs, that's black. So this is actually pad printed on the outside here. So these legs are actually not black and gray dual molds. They're just black legs with printing on the bottom to look like dual molds. And I believe, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the arm. Yeah, the arms are the same case. These are actually not dual molded. They look like they are. They did a good job spraying it to look like it was dual molded, but they are in fact just flesh colored arms with printing on them. I think that's a decent solution. I mean, especially if it helps them keep the cost of parts down. I don't know if the parts actually existed in that color, but if it keeps the cost down for them, I mean, go for it. It's fine with me to keep these fake printed because, I mean, it looks great. I would have never known. The only reason I knew is because I saw it in an Instagram reel of someone who got an early copy. So yeah, I think it looks good. Got a really nice design with all the straps running around. Of course, these are 180-degree printed because they're matching LEGO CMF. Once again, yeah. We got really cool wrapping on the arms. I think that they just executed the design of making this look like tattered, but also keeping with like kind of the clean LEGO aesthetic because LEGO never makes their figures look that dirty. So striking a nice balance between detail without going over detailed, you know, keeping it in the LEGO style. Once again, I've got just one issue. I just wish that they had an actual like shoulder piece. Now, I don't think any of the solutions anyone's come up with have worked. None of the official LEGO pieces, I think, would have made a really good like shoulder pad here. So I think they would have had to go with a custom mold, which might be why they didn't do it, but they also just don't seem to go with a whole lot of, I don't know, cloth or stuff like that. So yeah, maybe they could have included cloth here, but for a cloth this small, I think that this solution is fine. I don't really have an issue with no cloth on this figure. It is a problem on Lord Starkiller in my opinion, but this one's okay. One of the only real issues I have with this guy is the choice of hairpiece. Now, I know that that's a common choice in hairpiece for these Starkiller figures because I have my AV figure Starkiller from a while ago, which I will be doing a video on eventually, and they chose the exact same hairpiece. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I'm just not a huge fan of that option for Starkiller because in the games, he clearly has a buzz cut, and this is definitely just slicked back hair. So I don't think that that looks very accurate. I mean, it captures the shape pretty well, but in terms of like where the hair is going, that's just not what Starkiller has. He's got much shorter hair, and I don't really know what a better hair option would be. Maybe you just have to go the custom route, but I don't think that the slicked back option is the best version. But I mean, not the end of the world. Once again, overall, this figure is really good. This is exactly what I would expect if LEGO did a CMF of like Legends characters and Starkiller was in there. This is probably exactly what you'd see. Once again, no accessories, so no kind of lightsabers or anything. A little disappointing once again, but I mean, dime a dozen, really could have included it at no cost to yourself. I've of course got lightsabers, so it's not a problem for me, but once again, easy inclusion, Light Customs, easy little improvement just to make your figures that much better. A really nice face on the back. I actually like the face print back here way more than the just angry screaming face print. This looks way more like Sam Witwer to me than this does. I'm pretty sure I've seen this face print before. I don't know where, but I recognize this. This looks very, very familiar. I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was not on this figure, but I mean, overall, good figure. I want to change the hair. This actually looks so much, the hair actually looks better with this face print on. I don't know what it is. This looks so much like Sam Witwer. Like, this really resembles Starkiller to me. I like this look. This is probably how I'm going to keep him displayed. I want to build a mock for this guy though. So eventually, stay tuned. You're going to be seeing some more of these figures from me. But let's address the huge elephant in the room when it comes to Light Custom. They make they make nowhere near enough quantity for what they're actually, what the demand is for these figures. The demand for these figures is really high. Custom Lego Star Wars really isn't that niche anymore, and Light Customs makes some of the most popular figures that I've seen because they're just the most broadly appealing. They don't look over detailed. They don't look particularly quote unquote custom. They just look like official figures and they fit in really well and they make really desirable characters at really high qualities for the most part. So a lot of people want them. And for each of these guys, they made about 600 each, which in the custom community is almost nothing, especially because for some reason, for these two figures in particular, they had a minimum quantity or a max quantity of 2 per buyer, which I think is just ridiculous. Nobody needs 2 of these figures. There's only 1 of each. So the only reason someone's buying a second is to resell it and scalp it. So you're effectively cutting the available market in half for people who actually want to buy it at retail price. These things sold out in literally like a minute and a half on Tom the Builder's website, which only had 300. I assume they sold out just as quick over in Europe on the Bricks and Figs website. So I don't really know why we're making so few. There is going to be a restock of Lord Starkiller, but it's limited to 200. So if they're splitting the quantity again, that's 100 for Europe and 100 for the States, which again is not enough. That's going to sell it really quickly. And I don't know if they can limit who buys them again. So there might just be the same scalpers buying up the same quantity, especially if they allow 2. And don't even get me started on the variant they had, which was a really cool Inquisitor version of Lord Starkiller, where they only had, I think, 140 made, 65 for, or sorry, 130, 65 for the States and 65 for Europe, which again, that's not anywhere near enough to meet the demand. That thing sold out in seconds. I was not able to get it at all, even though I instantly added it to my cart, instantly hit checkout. It was gone before I was able to get through the queue and everything. So once again, Light Customs is really good. They make really cool figures. Unfortunately, there are just some areas like the cloth, no lightsabers, the incorrect advertising of the render of the helmet for Lord Starkiller in particular, where I'm just a little disappointed in how they've handled that there. And then of course, once again, just not super happy with the way they're doing the quantity. In my opinion, most of their figures that they make, they could keep the molds around, they could keep the plates around for printing and just keep reproducing them. And they would continue to make sales for a pretty extended period of time. There are a lot of people who would be buying these figures. I'm sure that the number is well into the thousands that you could be selling these very, very sought after customs for. So I just don't understand what the reason is. I don't know if it's like a factory limitation. I would love Light Customs to be just more transparent just about why their quantities are so limited. I know he's just making figures that he wants, so again, I'm not knocking the choices that he's making. If this is how he wants to do it, sure. But in terms of the manufacturing and the quantity, guys, y'all really got to make more of these. But overall, Light Customs, pretty cool. If you can ever manage to get your hand on these, I would not recommend paying above retail price for these guys. I don't think that they're going to be the only ones ever made. There is competition on the custom scene. So Light Customs, great. I can't wait to see what they do in the future. I hope they do more Force Unleashed stuff, and hopefully I am able to actually buy it. And I hope that they make more quantity because these figures are great and people just deserve to have them in their collections if they have the money to do so. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about Light Customs down in the comments below. Once again, they're more controversial in my opinion, so just let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about these figures and what you want to see me do with them in the future, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.